Selamat siang dan selamat pagi semuanya. Welcome to the Orange Talk today. This is the fourth Orange Talk organized by Nufikneso. My name is Sinar Juliana, and I will guide you through the program today. Today's talk is focused on water resource partnership for sustainable development. A mouthful title. Water is very near and dear substance to us. What do we expect to learn today from these talks are threefold. The first one, we would like to explore how the water infrastructure development and planning is done by the public works, promoting the sustainable development goal. The second one, we would like to provide insight on collaboration in the water sector and potential application in Indonesia and their importance to sustainable development goal. The third one, to realize that achieving the sustainable development goal in the water sector, in order to do that, we need to be connected and strengthened with the university, the government, and communities, and beyond the collaboration of this triangle. Today's talk is organized together by Nufikneso and INP Indonesia. You know a lot about Nufikneso, and I want to mention something about INP Indonesia. It is a recently established association for Indonesian professionals, including academicians, residing in the Netherlands. We are striving to connect experts and organizations, and we would like to participate to assist local and international projects. So far, we have organized several webinars on relevant global issues. These webinars are recorded, and you can find it back in the website of IP Indonesia. NL. Back to the Orange Talk. These talks present practitioners and experts' perspectives in both local and global contexts. The previous three talks has focused on security and rule of law and agriculture and food security. These events were also recorded, and therefore you can find them back in the website of Nufikneso. Today we are going to have our keynote speak from Mr. Peter van Taal. I would like to know if Mr. Peter van Taal is already in.
I'm here.
Yes, that's. I'm glad to introduce Mr. Peter van Taal, the director of Nufikneso, the Netherlands Education Support Office in Indonesia. Peter oversees the work of Nufik in Southeast Asia, including the office in Vietnam. As you know, Peter is a world citizen. In Indonesia, Peter has worked for Kemitraan, Partnership for Governance Reform, and as an advisor to the Indonesian National Police. He has published in academic journal on the role of civil society, accountability, human rights, as well as on social and political developments in Indonesia. Peter is also a non-resident faculty with the Kroc Institute for International Peace Studies at the University of Notre Dame. Without saying much more, I will give the microphone and the screen to Peter. Please, Peter.
Thank you very much, Sinar. Thank you for opening this seminar that I've been looking forward to. I'm here in Jakarta this afternoon, and good morning for everyone in the Netherlands. I don't know if you can hear it, but I think it is a sign. It has just started to rain here, so you may hear the thunder. So water is coming, and water is the theme of the talk here this afternoon. And, you know, it is so important. Water is a source of life, but water can also be problematic. And it plays a key role in the relationship between our two countries. So let me start with a small personal anecdote. Indeed, altogether, I have lived for about, well, it's almost 12 or more years now here in Jakarta in different periods. And I have lived in 4 different houses in Jakarta. My first house in Jakarta had a water pump that went down 12 meters. My second house in Jakarta had a water pump that went down 18 meters. My third house in Jakarta had a water pump going down 25 meters. And my current house has a water pump going down 42 meters. Now, so I have water. I took my mandi this morning, but as a citizen, I feel bad because, of course, what I am doing, what a lot of people are doing here in Jakarta, it is not sustainable. It is not sustainable. And an important reason why Jakarta is sinking is because so many people, including myself, we are forced to pump up water from deeper and deeper levels in order to live. And this is just how I thought it's just as a matter of introduction that this is not a theoretical issue. This is something very concrete in our own lives. And the same is true, of course, if you live in the Netherlands, where water is all around. And if we don't manage the water, it would create huge problems. And if we look forward, you mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals. If we don't work hard on achieving them, if we don't work on preventing further climate change, if we don't work on climate adaptation, in which water is an essential element, part of the Netherlands will disappear underwater. So, our two countries are deeply involved in this issue. And there's a lot to learn from each other. I'm very happy today also that in this meeting there will be representatives from PUPR, the Indonesian Ministry for Infrastructure and Water, where there is a lot of Holland alumni, as you may know. Very happy also to see IPI taking on this initiative. As you said, for us, this is a continued engagement. We had in our week of Indonesia, Netherlands Education and Research, several sessions at the end of November last year on climate adaptation and water. On the 10th of March, we had Ibu Siti Nurbaya, the Minister for Environment and Forestry, speaking to us in a seminar that was focused on adaptation, but also with water in the middle. We have this meeting now. The winter conference will happen again on the 26th to 28th of October later this year, and I'm sure this issue will return. And we have our challenge. We are challenging our Netherlands alumni to think of small projects that can help solve problems in Indonesia, create awareness about these issues. I trust it will come back also in the lineup of this event this afternoon. So what I'm saying with that is that everyone that is engaged with these issues and in our relationship is invited not only to think and discuss about it, but also to come with suggestions and proposals for solutions. So thank you very much, IPI, for taking this initiative also to continue this discussion with a very relevant group of important people related to Indonesia. Without further ado, I give it back to you, and I'm looking forward to listening to interesting presentations and discussions the rest of this afternoon here in Jakarta. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So welcome again, everyone. So I want to now introduce us to the panelists of today, to the speakers. We have proudly 3 panelists from different organizations and institutions today. Our first panelist is Mr. Leo Eliasta Sembiring. He is Deputy Director for the Directorate for Rivers and Coasts, Directorate General for Water Resources, Ministry of Public Works and Housing, PUPR in Indonesia. Pak Leo has a PhD from Joint Program Delta Race IHE Delft and TU Delft in 2015. He obtained MSc from UNESCO IHE Delft in 2010. He's a student awardee. And he got his bachelor degree from Bandung University of Technology in 2004. Pak Leo will talk about our first objective on the talk this afternoon. Our second presenter is Reza Pramana. Reza Pramana is a researcher at Delft University of Technology. His research examined the hydrological impact of small-scale water interventions, focusing on relation between people and field measurement. Related to research project in Indonesia, in 2011, he managed capacity building project of micro hydro in Ambon, Maluku, founded by Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs. Then, with Akista in development, a business model of Barsha pumps in Sumba, East Nusa Tenggara, he won the Momo for Climate 2017 Challenge, hosted at the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Jakarta. Currently, Reza is working on his research, focusing on how to improve the water quality management in the Brantas River Basin, East Java. We will hear about it in his talk. Our third, but not least panelist is Professor Floris Burghardt. Floris holds a PhD from Delft University of Technology with research on the quality of stormwater and optimizing the long-term efficiency of small-scale nature-based solutions. In April 2013, Floris accepted a professorship spatial transformation at Hanse University of Applied Science in Groningen. Floris is the founder of climate action tools as Climate Scan and Climate Cafe to make cities more resilient to climate change. Research fields is including climate adaptation, nature-based solution, interdisciplinary monitoring, water supply quality management, and urban planning. We will hear more about it from Professor Floris today. So before we go to the meat of the discussion, we would like to take picture of all of us. So please, everybody, don't be shy, turn your camera on.
Okay, let me tackle it for this picture. We have 82 participants joining this event up to now. So we have 4 slides. Let me take for the first slide. I don't know who are in the first slide or the second slide, but yeah, when I call 3, just senyum, yeah, just cheers and also show your happy face. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's for the first slide. Yeah, the second slide. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. The third slide. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. And for the last slide, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mbak Sinar.
Thank you, Dito. I hope that we will have a very nice picture afterwards. Okay, so then we will move on to our first speaker of today, Mr. Leo. Pak Leo, silakan.
Terima kasih, Bu Sinar. Mudah-mudahan suara saya terdengar jelas ya. Let me share my screen. Right. Selamat sore untuk Bapak Ibu yang ada di Indonesia, and a very good morning for friends and colleagues in the Netherlands. First of all, I would like to convey my appreciation that I'll be very happy and be honored to be invited in these talks. So I will just start my presentation. This is the title of my presentation, and yeah. So today I will be talking about development of water infrastructures. So the first one will be about national development plan policy, especially in PUPR, or the Ministry of Public Works. And the second thing will be about strategic plan, and we call it VISIUM 2030 or VISIUM 2030 PUPR SDA. And then I'll be also talking about the implementation strategy to achieve that. And since I'm from the flood control department, so to say, in the PUPR SDA, so the end of my topics, I'll be talking about flood control management. This is to give a context to all of us on how we create programs in PUPR SDA. So I will start from the very end. So we have this program execution here, which is basically what we do in our daily business. And this program comes from state budget, or we call it a APBN, which is a document legalized by the House of Representatives, or it's an undang-undang, national regulation. And this APBN is a derivative from what we call RKP, or simply it's a government work plan. And this government work plan is a summarize of two things. First, we call it RPJMN, or medium-term national development plan, which is a 5-year plan. And we also have RENSTRA, or strategic plan, which is also a 5-year plan. And these two documents here, RPJMN and RENSTRA, is a combination, let's say, or it's a derivative of what we call long-term national development plan, which is a quite a long-term plan. And of course, the visi misi of the president and the vice president. So this all in gray color, it's basically a national documents, let's say, and the one in is light color, it's a PUPR SDA plan or document. And this whole plan here, of course, comes from, we call it Tujuan Pembangunan Berkelanjutan, TPB, which is simply the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is to give all of us context on how we create programs and develop
Pak Leo, kita kehilangan ini Screen-nya hang. Could you hear us?
He's leaving and still rejoining again, I think, Sinar.
Okay, we will wait a bit. Yeah, he might have a network problem. Yes, because of this pandemic, actually, this is a very great opportunity. Yeah, we can talk very much with the broad public during this lockdown through the webinar. But sometimes we have this kind of issues if the network hangs a little bit. I hope Leo can join us soon. But maybe not to waste time, we can move on to the next presenter, and then Leo can rejoin later on. So I would like to then move to the second presenter. That is Reza Pramana. Reza will talk about his work on yeah, I will not disclose it, so then I will give directly the floor to Reza. Please, Reza.
Oh, wait, I guess now Leo is online. Perhaps you go back to Leo first.
Let me see. Pak Leo, are you there? Yes, I see Pak Leo.
Yes, yes. Can you hear me? My sincere
Glad to have you back.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, laptop usually works when you don't need them.
This is a demo effect, but please continue.
Yes, I'll continue. Sorry, I'll just continue where we left off. Yes. All right. Shall I continue, Bu Sinar?
Please.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 7 national development agendas, or what we usually call it in Indonesia Prioritas Nasional, or PN, which is a translation of the RPJMN. And as you can see here, we have 7 national priority or national agendas, and specifically for SDA PUPR, we support into development agenda. The first one, or PN1, or Prioritas Nasional Pertama, about strengthening economic resilience for quality and equitable growth, and where SDA will play an important role on fulfillment of food and water resources management. And the second national priority, PN5, infrastructure strengthening, and that's basically the development of infrastructure, which is actually very much in line with what PUPR do. And we at SDA have to translate the development plan into a measurable strategic plan. We call it Renstra, or Rencana Strategis, strategic plan of SDA, which is a 5-year plan, and it has to be already measurable. Yeah? So as you can see, this is the 4 main sectors of water resources in SDA, PUPR SDA. We have dams and reservoirs, we have flood and sediment control, we have irrigation, and we have raw water supply. So for example, as you see here, for raw water supply, we plan to achieve an enhancement of raw water supply by 50 cubic meter per second within 2020 until 2024. And for example, here for irrigation, the target is 500,000 hectares of rice and non-rice irrigation systems to be developed, and rehabilitation of almost 2 million hectares of irrigation systems. And for flood, for example, we plan to construct, like for example here, 25 sabo dams to control the sediments due to the volcanic eruption, and 166 check dams at basins priority. And the ministry itself also set a long-term vision. So we call it VISIUM PUPR 2030, or it's already very known widely within our internal organization, but also in public, that PUPR set a goal also by 2030. So in the context of water storage capacity, the VISIUM PUPR 2030 targeted 120 cubic meter per capita per year, while until 2020 we have already 50.27 cubic meter per capita per year. As you can see, it's quite a lot of work still need to be done, and to achieve this, we are now working hard to build reservoirs of dams. Until 2014, we have 202 dams. And within the first term of this administration, President Jokowi, we built 15 dams, and until 2024, we have 43 dams now ongoing, and we have 3 already built, accomplished in 2020. And I would like also to mention that this water storage also serve as flood control measures. So it's not only for water storage for water supply. And what is the strategy to achieve the goals? Yeah, so PUPR developed 5 implementation strategy as directed by Pak Menteri, or our minister. The first one, integrated and systemic program preparation, which simply means it shouldn't be a program which is sporadical. Yeah, it has to be integrated and a systemic approach. And the second one, we have to be a risk taker. We have to have a risk taker attitude and quick decision making. And to follow up this strategy, this number 2 strategy, we actually in our ministry just perform a big changes in the organization in order to so some managerial level have been eliminated. So the idea is to have a quick decision making process. The third is solid teamwork and site orientation. The fourth, detailed and consistent supervision. And the last but not least is robust operation and maintenance systems. So these whole 5 strategies, they have to be supported by competent human resources, of course. And Pak Menteri directed that all of us has to be keen to learn from many other sectors, keen to learn from experienced parties, either from within Indonesia or abroad. So yeah, so that's about how we plan, and I would like to talk about flood now. As you can see here, the picture on the right is map of Ciliwung Basin, where Jakarta area is included. This first panel is the elevation, and the rest, what you see is the land use map projected until 2050. So we have challenges: population growth, urbanization, climate change, and I specifically mention in bold here law enforcement regarding land use change and land subsidence in a coastal area. Peter van Taal just mentioned that his house has a water pump go beneath the soil up to more than 40 meters. Yeah, so something relevant to discuss. So these are the challenges that we have, and I would specifically go to this land use change and land subsidence. What we see on the right is projection until 2050, how the peak discharge will increase. Yeah, so the one on the left, these numbers is the peak discharge. These two examples are for Depok and Katulampa, and the one on the right, this is for rainfall for this basin, which is represented by this bar chart on top. So what I would like to mention here is that due to this study from Mu et al. 2017, published in Hydrological Research Letters, 36.8% increase in flood inundation volume is expected. Of course, with the assumption of nowadays projection of land use change, yeah, and due to land subsidence, so it's quite a big number. So just due to the land use change and land subsidence, we will have an increase in 36.8% of flood inundation volume. And therefore, the flood mitigation plan implementation should be specifically focused on land use change and land subsidence. That's logical consequences. And I put here, what about climate change? Yeah, something that we can, of course, discuss later on, because land use change and land subsidence, they're all mainly driven by human activities. So talking about flood management, we have two things, yeah, prevention, the one on the left, and we have flood control, the one on the right. Prevention, usually non-structural measures, and flood control, structural measures. So in this flood control or structural measures, we have we can group it into several activities. Let's say we have increased hydraulic capacity, we decrease the peak flow, we control the sediment, and we perform countermeasures for tidal flood. So the one on the right, the structural measures, these are very much in line with what PUPR SDA do. This is our business, because we're all engineers, yeah, mainly engineers. So this is what we do. What I would like to emphasize here is everything that we do here, PUPR, these structural measures, of course, they are important, and it's a must. But what I would like to say is it's far from sufficient. When we are talking about flood management, it's far from sufficient. We need these prevention measures, non-structural measures. I mentioned here, we need to develop partnership. There are many examples in Indonesia already, like here, GNKPA, Gerakan Nasional Kemitraan Penyelamatan Air, which is basically a national movement, a partnership to conserve water. We have also Germadan for to conserve lakes, and public participation. We have some communities now very much concerned on river conservation, for example. And sekolah sungai, sekolah means school, sungai means river. So it's basically how to put in the curriculum also education about how to conserve rivers, for example, from the very early time of the education in Indonesia. We have so we also need to promote socialization of regulations And of course, last but not least, law enforcement in spatial planning regulations. So I specifically mentioned here, it's very important to be highly selective about permits for land use and highly selective permits for water use. So here on the left, we organize humans towards nature. Yeah, so that's basically the idea. While here we organize the water in the control. We organize water which requires space. So I would like to once again emphasize that structural measures, as what we do in PUPR SDA, they are important, but it's not far from sufficient. We need to do more on these non-structural measures, and these prevention measures. So that's all for me. Thank you so much for all your kind attention. Over to you, Bu Sinar.
Thank you, Pak Leo. That's very interesting. So now we learn how the PUPR policy and strategic planning, and we know the challenge on the flood control in Indonesia. And I was quite impressed about the 43 dams to be built. So I hope that it will be strengthening all this all the water problem in Indonesia, and it will go away. Well, with that, I would like to bridge to the second presenter today. Welcome, Reza Pramana. And in the second talk, we are going to get some insight on the collaboration in the water sector and the potential application in Indonesia. Reza, please take the microphone and the screen.
Thank you very much, Bu Sinar. Good morning to you in the Netherlands and good afternoon in Indonesia. My name is Reza. I'm from Delft University of Technology, and I would like to share my presentation about water quality management in the Brantas Basin. So basically, these are my topics or keywords that I'm going to present. So first, about why water quality is important or attached also to the Sustainable Development Goals. And then I will share about our consortium, who we are. I mean, the cooperation between TU Delft and other parties. And then we will see a bit from the project location. Then I will talk about our research. It's about the citizen science and also data base building with agencies, and then the institutional setup. So why we think it's water quality is important, especially if it relates to the SDG. So water quality is affected by people, but also affecting to people. I mean, we need to improve the water quality by reducing pollution. And as you can see, some of the pollution we know, I mean, perhaps it's in most of the river in Indonesia, especially in urban areas, where you can see the domestic water and then industrial wastewater, also pollution from agriculture, and also solid waste. So these are all affecting actually the water quality itself, where then at the end, people could get waterborne disease and illness because of the low water quality. So that's why we started actually our project, the Brantas Basin, where in the consortium, we have other partners in Indonesia. So first from Balai Besar Wilayah Sungai Brantas, so they're the authority of Brantas Basin, and we have Perum Jasa Tirta, who operates and provide water quantity for end users, and then we have also Dinas Lingkungan Hidup Provinsi Jawa Timur, as one also works on environmental protection. And then we are also in cooperation with an NGO called Ecoton, and then with Dutch consultancy TAO. So this is actually a joint effort where we want to improve the water quality in the Brantas Basin. And we are going to do it until 2024. And the location itself, some of you perhaps already know it's in East Java. So if you see the size of the basin, it's about 14,000 square kilometers. And the river itself is 320 kilometers. Rainfall per year, you would estimate roughly it's 2,000 millimeter. And there are 18 million people living on the basin within 15 cities. And what we do actually, it's a research that we want to empower actually the community to participate in the measurement, in the monitoring of the water quality. We know that agencies are also monitoring, but we would like to empower also people, communities, those who care for the water quality to take part of the measurement so that we know that we can be educated to improve the water quality in the Brantas. Since we are now on lockdown, it's most of the time that we get in contact with our partners through online meeting. And currently we are also surfing the Q methodology with them to see how they think about water quality, because some of the communities are already affected by the river water quality that affects also their livelihood. But then also for the government who monitor the water quality would like also to see how they see the water quality in Brantas River Basin. But for the future planning, we are going to do real measurement. So we actually would like to encourage the communities to take part of this measurement. We are going to provide with test strips and also sensors that will enable them to measure the water quality on site. And perhaps if you can see one of the examples, how test strip works. With this test strips, you can actually roughly measure the water quality, and we expect with the result of this test strip to be taken in a picture, and afterwards you can upload that to a database system via a mobile phone. It's not possible to do it right now because of this pandemic, and we at UDelft, we also cannot fly to Indonesia because of the restriction. So it's still a plan. But how about the current data that the agencies have? So if you see the database that we have right now from Dinas Lingkungan Hidup, we have also from BWS, from Brantas, and then we have also data from PGT. So it's quite challenging because there are a lot of data with different format, with different types of water quality parameters that were measured. And now we are trying actually to combine them. How to combine them is of course not an easy task because it requires consideration of each agencies, how they think about their data, especially if they know it's a sensitive issue. If they are publishing data that might also create some tension with communities, that's dangerous. So therefore, we are going first to discuss within our consortium where actually to put the data. It could be at DLH, it could be at BVS, it could be at PGT, because they all have their database. But how to integrate again, how to manage this, and then in the future also that we want to promote the citizen science, how do their data fit in? For example, it could be potentially put in, let's say, outside the governmental database, somehow linked to it. But then we need to think of how to best build the website, how it links each other. Because at the end, you would like to have also some kind of decision-making where the citizen science could also play a role. I mean, if they measure water quality somewhere in Brantas and they think it's polluted and they need to take action, how are they going to report it? That's still a challenge for us. So building the database, including citizen science, is our goal of this project. And after that, we see also the institutional setup, where a colleague of mine is working on this. She is working on the policy part. She checks on the institutional strengthening, the overlapping mandates, and with that she would like to improve the policy. Our project would like to establish a steering committee. Nowadays, if you have water problems, you can actually go to the TKP-SDA, you bring the issues, and you could get a recommendation how to solve that. And for this project, we would like also to insert our water quality issues. But until now, we are still working on that. We're still discussing on that, how to best actually make the steering committee, because it involves and engage many people. And we also expect that within the steering committee, we know how we can proceed with our, for example, complaints if water is polluted. So there needs to be a guideline how to report, because I guess nowadays it is available at the agencies, but it's perhaps not socialized to many people. And it needs to be regulated. And the last, because this webinar is also about partnership, we think that we cannot work by ourselves, even though in this consortium, because it's small and we need more participation. We need to work with the universities. We need to work with high schools, as also mentioned by Pak Leo, how to insert perhaps the water quality program in their curriculums, and also adding to that the citizen science. And we need to work with the governmental agencies who, for example, can make the water infrastructure for domestic wastewater. And perhaps you could also have, let's say, the private sector that could also support our measurement, and also other NGOs that care about water quality in Brantas. So there's still more effort needed for new engagement, new meetings, and where we can see where we can collaborate in the future. With this, I thank you very much for your attention. I give it back to Bu Sinar. Silakan.
Thank you, Reza. Terima kasih for your presentation. And yeah, this is a very nice project. And I wish you also, a good luck for the project, and I hope the pandemic will soon be over, that we will get more opening to your activities in the project. Well, we are bridging to the third presenter. This is Professor Floris Boga from the Netherlands. And here we will learn a little bit more also about how to achieving these SDG by cooperating between different sectors and for public. Floris, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen, and this should be okay. Yes, all right. So in the next 20 minutes, or maybe a bit less, because we might getting out of schedule, but that's not for me to say, of course. But Sina, please interrupt me if I'm too long at the speech. So
I think you are okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks. And of course, terima kasih for inviting me and sharing the knowledge of, well, about this content. I really like the previous speakers, of course, starting with Pete about the rain coming. We have to be ready, for example, and maybe the pumps are not the wisest idea that the Netherlands has, and also reflecting on the situation in Indonesia, Asia, or actually the world. And of course, the great work and great works of Leo with the large basins and the interaction with Reza already on a smaller level and engagement. So that's really good. So I want to go even lower and really practical on showing some of the partnerships and tools that you actually can use, because you might have the feeling they're large projects, but how do I fit in? What can I do? So basically, I'm going to show you two tools where you can find more information and be engaged. And I really hope that works. So it's actually engaging with a lot of sustainable development goals. One of my favorites is, of course, partnerships. You will see that from, well, my affiliations already introduced by Sinar. I'm a professor at Groningen University. It's an applied university, so I really like to go out. Even though I heard in the previous first videos that it rains a lot in the Netherlands, and that's absolutely right. But I love to go out and engage, and that will be in my slides as well. I also work at the Global Center of Adaptation. Office in Groningen and Rotterdam, but basically a solution broker for all over the world. So really practical solutions. And after 20 years at TAU, being part of the project that Reza talked about, I'm now consultant also at Deltares and working a lot with IHA Delft, of course, which has been mentioned here. So quality of education is very important for my, so keep that in mind when you see the slides. And of course, climate action is one of the goals that I have, and the partnerships here. And of course, well, we have the topic of water. You probably realize that if the dikes would break in the Netherlands, I would be out of my jobs and probably moving to Indonesia and to find better grounds, so to say. So practice, education, research, and professional practice, that's the combination that I most am engaged with. So maybe what are we talking about when it's about climate change and water? It's too much water, it's too less water. That's why we have subsidence and have to pump more, for example. It's also we're building dikes in the Netherlands and also, of course, in Semarang, the Bangerpolder, for example. So there are quite some things related to water, and it's even bigger. We have damage to infrastructure about subsidence, and also a higher temperatures, about air quality, about the water quality that Reza talked about. So there's a lot going on. And actually, one picture I saw in the news that it's snowing in East Java. Of course, that's not true. That's pollution, phosphate in this case. But of course, there's a lot going on. So water is related to a lot of sustainability goals, of course. So just showing some of the partnerships that I've been involved with. Most of my work is besides Ambon, most in Java. A lot of interest, of course, being the most dense populated island of the earth. And most of my work is in Semarang, and I had the privilege to work with Reza and some of you actually in the call as Astria on the Brantas project. So I will move a bit to the living labs in Water Indonesia. Just know that, well, probably you followed winter events. There are a lot of living labs, as they call it. So really engagement with a lot of stakeholders all around. But I will focus a bit on the quantity part, being in Semarang, because we visited the Surabaya area or the Brantas area already. So most of my work is about sinking cities. Peter already mentioned we're pumping ourselves into the ground or under the sea level, as you see here. There are a lot of, we're not alone, of course. Rotterdam is considered as a sinking city, but basically 2/3 of the Netherlands is sinking, so to say. And of course, Jakarta is a striking example of a mega city facing these problems. But also, of course, Semarang, which I talked about, and then, well, I don't have to tell you, it looks like this, people going to school, having the tide actually going up in the school. That's a picture that I always show in the Netherlands, and people really relate to that because it's personal. It's a striking picture, the kids that's sitting at the school. So that's very important. This is actually a couple of weeks ago with a flooding that a lot of, I'm wearing this nice shirt as Leo is wearing as well, but you see the paint of batik in the streets when there's a flooding. So these pictures go all around in the Netherlands, of course. So and that's something to deal with. Well, then we have a lot of approaches, as you can see here. I'm not going to go in detail, but it's about setting up partnerships. Most of these partnerships of research end into books. And I don't think books are the most resilient way of transferring knowledge. Still, we're academics, so we write our papers and everything, but we have to find ways, as Reza as well said, engagement and seeing how we can relate and empower people, engage for capacity building, for example. So I'm going to skip this a bit and go to practice and show you there are a lot of tools that we can use in international knowledge exchange. We often don't speak the same language. That's logical because we are not same culture. We don't have the same climate. We don't have a lot of things. So visualization or interaction is a very strong method, therefore. So I'm just going to show you Climate Scan and Climate Cafe, which are global tools that we set up and you can actually contribute to making a bigger climate. And before I say that, you might get the impression, okay, what is this website? What is it about? And is that a toy? Well, actually not. It's and I speak to you as an academic, as most of you are alumni. This is science. Citizen science is a major great science that we can use. If you want to know more, know that there are a lot of open access publications about these tools, where you can read the science behind it and who's involved and what kind of impact does it have, because that's of course very important. But I'm not gonna bore you too much. If you're interested, I'm going to share these slides and you see the DOI of these publications if you're interested. So but I'm talking about these publications. So the first one is a Climate Cafe, and I was quite interested in the beginning of the talk that there might be some action that we can merge with this initiative. Climate Cafe is basically in a normal situation, non-corona, that we go out and we measure. Has been seen with Reza, that could be water quality, that also floodings. It's very important to know where floodings are and how to perform them. And climate cafes can be done all over the world. And of course, we did that in Indonesia, for example, in Semarang, where we go out and visit solutions. We visit problem areas and talk about it in the field, because that really is a part of the imaginations that we need to solve problems. And again, in every slide, there's some, you see some references or websites that you can visit, and I will share so you can visit more information if you would like to. So see that it's all over the world, and this is just the beginning. There are a lot more actions. So, well, just to visualize what's going on and what does it has to do with the sustainable development goals. You see here, in the left corner, one of my favorites, life below water, using innovative tools like, in this case, underwater drones, yellow submarines that will measure the water quality, which is one of the things that Reza talked about, for example. And it's very important to analyze your situation, what kind of substances are in the water, but it's also very important to engage and show people what's out there and come to action. And mostly I start with here. So I like the Brantas project, for example. And we have, when we go out of the field, we interview people. So it's about partnerships. We do climate scan, which I show later. It's about water drones, really gathering data that we need to know what kind of ambition do we have, or what can we achieve within limited budgets and everything. So there are a lot of workshops that relate to one sustainable development goals. And we can, of course, stress that we can, add more. It's about interaction with stakeholders, what we do in the field. So, well, it looks like this. It's mostly a lot of fun as well. We go on boats, we do the test trips on water quality, we do the measurements. But if you see these pictures, it's more about engagement, talking about problems, talking about solutions, share information. That's the main thing. And of course, you gather data in the field as well, which is quite nice. And it's also about dissemination, showing in local newspapers what's going on, and raise awareness so people will not pollute, for example. So a lot of engagement. I'm gonna skip some, and enthusiasm, I hope. And well, I really like that, being in the field, and especially for me, I get to see a lot of great places in Indonesia and meet a lot of great people. And well, we can share the knowledge and raise awareness with papers like this, which reaches, of course, this is in Bahasa, because you need to speak the language. That's a very important thing of these tools. So these are moving a bit to Semarang. This was just before COVID. Lucky enough, I could travel and also get back in time. We did a lot of workshops on climate adaptation in this case. Everything that you, there's a lot of things going on, of course. And again, this is Climate Scan. If you go to climatescan.org, you'll see the URL later. You can visit some flood polders, for example, and that could be very nice for the rest of Indonesia to be up. But what's the key of these small gatherings, of course, that you need for very good interaction? It's innovative. We talk about things like this. It seems very much in the Netherlands, and of course all around the world, that we are restraining ourselves from innovation. It seems like there's so many solutions already thought of, but we don't exchange that knowledge, and that can be very, very productive. So, for example, when people from Indonesia come and they relate to the floodings in Semarang, mostly we take them to the flood polder in Delft. If you've been in Delft, you've probably seen this, and it's about a lot of people seeing actually a lot of solutions and interact. So we flood things and see that it actually works. And that is something that works a lot more than a report or a book, for example. So, and we're starting up now with making these field labs also in Semarang and Surabaya. So interaction, very, very tangible results, and we can do a lot of research on this. And the great thing is that the plastics problem that we have, we make it into new products, and from that products we can solve challenges, for example. So this is just one example, but if you go around, and this is another thing I've found on social media, which I find very interesting. Some people focus on the left, the floodings, and the other one see what kind of fence is this? This is amazing. We should do that. That seems more effective than a dike, for example. So so it's also looking around for solutions and being creative. Well, all these solutions in the field lab, and you can find them at Climate Scan. I'll tell you later. We did in some workshops in Surabaya and Semarang, and of course, first what we have to do is not focus our solution on someone. You have to ask what are the problems and where do you need solutions from, and do you already know solutions, for example. So we had a lot of workshop. It's published as well. We'll share a link later if you're interested, and then I will just show you. It's mainly about young professionals in this case, just showing some of the results that we have. We asked what is the relevance of climate adaptation platforms, for example, but also the solutions. And there are a lot of solutions that you might know as swales, constructed wetlands for water purification, green roofs, floating urbanization, quite surprising, very low interest, for example, where we then focus on. It's not about the individuals, but it's quite interesting that even in Semarang and Surabaya, which is quite near on a global context, there are very different views on what they need, for example. So that's something to take home with probably. And well, talking about something that really combines Indonesia and the Netherlands is maybe floating infrastructure. It's one of the most resilient measures that you can take, because if it's too dry, the infrastructure will go down, and if it's flooding, it just moves. So, and I think that that's something in the future. And I saw some great solutions already in Semarang. Even one of the platforms in the airport where you land is floating. I heard, and also this is a floating library, for example, talking about partnerships, interaction, and sharing knowledge. And well, some restaurants I had the privilege to visit. Great food, of course, in Indonesia, and well, it's very. And if you're in the Netherlands, there are a lot of locations that are floating. Maybe in Rotterdam, you've seen these great balls floating. It's quite nice to see. So, but how do we share that knowledge? How do we know about that great fence? Well, then you have platforms and tools, and that's all around the world. Most of them are a bit top down, so to say. So I really like the part of the citizen science, so more the bottom-up approaches. So one of the things that I use, just mentioned, is climatescan.org, and not only me, it's really about citizen science and you sharing your knowledge to a larger group. So everybody can join, it's open source, and one of the publications is about this part, because it's not excluding anyone. Anyone has knowledge. Anyone knows maybe a green roof or maybe a solar panel, and it's very small, but it contributes to a larger, very large amount of projects that actually is solving climate adaptation. Not everything can be solved with large structures. It's also about interaction, and very small measures can add up to a very larger attempt. So well, just showing some of the things that in the Netherlands, there are already a lot of people putting up their knowledge on a map. Very literally, there are about 3,000 projects nobody knew of. You can go to a specific municipality and actually see the DNA of that municipality, if it's maybe about swales, green roofs, or anything. So that's quite, and you see that already in Java and actually all around the world, people are adding some of these projects to it, and I really love to see what is going on. For example, now we talk really about climate adaptation, but you see some solar panels here, for example. I love those stories. I read a lot of Indonesian newspapers, or you know, I get them from friends from Indonesia, and then I try to pinpoint them. So you can do this. It's quite simple, and then we make inventories on what are the most viewed, what do you like, and that gives a lot of information for scientists like me, and then we can say, okay, a lot of people watch that floating library, for example, so that might be something that we need to upscale, to disseminate. And green walls, there's a biopori, very interesting, also in Scandinavia, for example, so it contributes to a thing. And again, here you can just go to ClimateScan and watch them, and I hope you add things to that as well. Well, getting to the last slide, still in time, I think. So I really briefly showed you things that you can actually participate in, and I hope you do. And Climate Cafes is international. A large benefit of Corona is basically that everything is digital. So you can join. Just go to climatecafe.nl, and there are a lot of things that is about collecting climate data in your area. So you can go out with apps. No large groups, if you can, of course, with Corona. And another thing, if you cannot go out, you can just share with an app or just on the website, your great projects. And a lot of people, and believe me, would really like to see what you find the best climate adaptation solution, because they're already out there. We just have to upscale them and share that knowledge. So that's basically my message, to say, two tools. We can maybe have a session maybe another time, get more in detail, or really do capacity building and show you how it works. It's quite simple, and it really contributes to something. I would love to write some papers with you guys, as well as being academics, to see what does it contribute, and that could also, that it maybe doesn't work for Java or other region. That's fine. That's a very good result as well. So we keep trying, basically. So yeah, that's about it, what I could do in 20 minutes. I hope I inspired you a bit, and I really hope to see you live soon, and otherwise just online on one of these tools. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Floris. That's very extensive explanation. I'm very happy to hear all of this, Climate Scan, Climate Cafe, and I hope all the audience also are very inspired now. And we have already got a lot of questions. So I want to, yeah, we can just start, I think. I hear an echo of myself. Is it okay now? Yeah, I think so, right? So we got already a lot of questions. I'll start from the first one, from South F. Siagian. If we have a water treatment project in our industrial estate, how can we do partnership and supportive funding? Could we do it limitedly in the pandemic to participate in the climate scan? So I think there are two questions, right? So first one is, how do we do partnership? Probably this will, I will ask this first to Pak Leo, and then maybe to Floris afterwards. Please, Pak Leo, unmute yourself. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Question is not so clear for me. So partnership in terms of water supply for this industrial purpose, or?
Yeah, a water treatment project. They have a water treatment project in the industrial estate.
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid I cannot say much on this. Very much in line with the organization unit other than SDA about water treatment plan. Well, it's if we can make sure that part of this industrial purpose also mainly on public purpose, then absolutely there will be an opportunity for a cooperation or partnership in terms of funding, probably. But then yeah, I think that's from me. Yeah. But okay. It has to be more specific on what kind of support or opportunities needed by this industrial in terms of the developing water treatment plant. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically there are possibilities, but of course that will be a different case by case.
Yep.
That's
sure.
what we can say about that.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So I hope that's answered the question for now. And I want to ask Floris, how could we do limitedly in the pandemic to participate in the climate scan?
Yes, great. Yeah, maybe to the last question, short addition to that. What I like, for example, by the Brantas project, if it's really about industrial, in the Brantas project, we approach industries to solve their own water quality problem. As in most countries, you are actually, as an industry, yeah, in the lead to make a purification before you discharge the water to the river, for example. And that budget and pandemic is one, two things that maybe are mentioned. I think that there's some confusion sometimes that we believe that some industries don't want to because of cost and anything. And I think if we have a dialogue with them, start a partnership, there are a lot of industries that really want to relate, but they are not aware of very cost-effective methods, nature-based solutions like constructed wetlands or biofiltration before you discharge it. And it's not expensive and it's low cost and low materials. So maybe that, sorry, that was stuck in my head. But the question directed to me was, and there are a lot of examples of that in ClimateScan. So now I relate to the second question. Everyone can at every time join a ClimateScan and of course view and all the inspirational projects set up by citizens and of course professionals and academics as well. And so you can just join. There's no restriction or anything, and you can add your project. If you're really enthusiastic, which I hope and might be the reason for this question as well, if you want to use it for research, as I did in the academic, I can give you, as we call that, God mode. Then you get admin rights, and you can get all the analytic Excel data that you can use for your research. And of course, hoping that will stimulate others to do so as well. I hope that answers the question. So,
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Floris. And so then, yeah, so this is a privilege, of course. Then they can just send email to you and ask for this. That's great. Yes. Now there's a question from Rio Deriana. Rio Deriana asked, dengan semakin banyaknya penggunaan bahan kimia, baik industri maupun rumah tangga, penanganan seperti apa yang dilakukan di negara Belanda agar kebersihan air tetap terjaga untuk keberlangsungan baik manusia maupun makhluk di bawah air? You get it, Floris? No, okay. I think I will translate it then. With a lot of usage of the chemical substances in the industry or domestics, how the Netherlands is doing to maintain the quality of water for humans or the creatures in the water, in the nature water?
Yeah, excellent question. That took a long time. Basically, when I go to Surabaya or Semarang, of course, I'm surprised that the waters are quite polluted. But it's the same situation we had in the 1970s. If you went to Amsterdam, all the trash was just dumped in the canals. You see pictures like it's totally the same. This is not something you solve overnight. It took our 20 years actually to solve it. And first, we did the large polluters. That's cost beneficial, of course. We built a lot of wastewater treatment plants, for example, and later we did small scale solutions to the water quality. And I think the water might look nice on a sunny day when you go to the canals in Amsterdam or Delft, but still there are a lot of substances that we don't want in the water and are very hard to get out, like medicine or submerged substances, as we call it. So we still have a long way to go, but I think the essence was start cost effective with large polluters and help them. Not with legislation and shut them down or something, but get a dialogue, get a partnership, as I explained, and then go step by step to really engagement. And I really like the work that Reza is doing in the Brantas project, for example, because it's mostly about raising awareness and capacity building, that people feel the need to keep their water, and that they feel that they are part of something bigger. And if you don't pollute, and a lot of people don't, and then you get clear water. So I hope that helps a bit with that question. And sorry, I don't speak Bahasa that much. Terima kasih. Yeah.
Oh. Terima kasih, Floris. And yeah, so it is a process, I guess. So another question to Pak Leo. So from Vicky Arianti Wicaksono, Pak Leo, can you please explain what kind of opportunities can be developed between the MPWH with Dutch associations or universities?
Yeah.
I think this is PUPR, right?
Yeah, MPWH is PUPR. Okay. Thank you for the questions. Well, actually, there are so many opportunities, but it depends on what we define as priority problem needs to be solved. But well, knowing a little bit about the Netherlands, then I would say we have a very complex problem about flood management in the lowland, especially in the north coast of Java, where we have fluvial flood as well as tidal flood. And this has been exposed us to a very complex problem. Many sectors needs to be all working together. We need to work with the river and the river basin, of course, integratedly, but we are also facing land which are subsiding. So I think we can start with this, yeah, let's say problem, and then we can start to see from which angle we can create cooperation or partnerships with the Netherlands, because not so many countries, I think, in this world that have this kind of problems. The land is keep sinking. We don't know for sure the rate. The rate we know, at least for what we have in our data now. For example, Jakarta, the highest one is near around Muara Baru, 12 centimeters per year. Almost 10 centimeters per year. Yes, we know that, but what we don't know is it accelerating or it's decelerating? Well, we don't know, and until when we don't know. So it's thing is it keeps sinking. So it's the seawater is not getting low; it's getting higher due to the climate change, even though it's in a very much slower rate than the land subsidence. So I think this complex problem can be a starting point to develop, yeah, cooperation, partnerships with the Netherlands, which is, I believe, have a very so many experience managing water, especially in a lowland area. I think that's from me.
Thank you, Pak Leo. And yeah, so this is an opening, I think, possible cooperation between the two parties. And yeah, I hope that it will be also can be in the details soon. Yeah. Next question from Daru Rini to Floris. Nice to meet you here online. Climate change impacts on more severe and frequent flood to Indonesia. Can you share what are climate adaptation measures in the Netherlands related with river and flood management that involve local community participation?
Yeah. And indeed, great to see you, meet you again online, Daru. We did a lot of great work together in the Brantas project and around, actually. So yes, there are a lot of initiatives, of course, about climate adaptation or water quality improvement in the Netherlands. If I just want to think of one project, and we can talk about this, of course, later on more larger scale, but I really like one of the things that actually is related to your work, Daru, that you do with a lot of engagement on with schools and just go out and measure. And there's one experiment. It's called the Schoon Water experiment in Dutch, in Blanda. And then it's engaged about 1,000 people that got a quality kit and went out and measure their quality of their water and uploaded online as a tool Teresa was talking about. And that gathered a lot of data, which I get very enthusiastic about as a researcher. But the best thing is that 1,000 people actually participated and got knowledge about climate adaptation and actually went out and measured with their kids, with schools. So I think that's the great work that you're doing from Ecoton could be upskilled at a national level, and that might be one of the examples that I find very interesting. So that's bottom up, but it went to top down basically, because a lot of people, politicians as well. So, okay, there's 1,000 people going out all over the country doing this. This must be something that I might get elected for, you know, getting on a large, and that's quite important as well. So I hope that's maybe a short answer to that question. Yeah.
Thank you, Floris. I hope that's answered the question. Now we got a question for Reza from Indra Nurdianto. To meet river water quality requirement, what can be suggested action? Because I think until today, there is nobody has been punished to polluting water activities, although Indonesia has sanction article in the water resource law.
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's interesting actually about water quality and law enforcement, because we know that, yeah, we are sort of weak in law enforcement itself, but we need also industries. So now we come to a trade-off, you know, because if you shut down the industry, then you have at your back many people who will not work on, who depends on that work in that particular industry. And I got an example from Citarum River Basin, where the military is actually enforcing the law by shutting down those industry that polluted. So that's one action that's really a top-down, but it's in Citarum. Whereas like in Brantas, I heard from DLH that they're still negotiating on that, because again, that the industry have many people at their back, and it's about the economic, their livelihood. So we also need to be careful on that. But in this project, we support any kind of new water treatment plan development that can be, let's say, installed in industry and also small scale industry. But then at the end, they do have a water treatment plan so that, yeah, water can be clean actually before it enters the nature, the river. I guess that's my answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Reza. And this is another question from Maggie Lestari. Maybe everyone from the panelists can answer if you know. Are there any products that can improve groundwater in Indonesia, considering that there is a lot of pollution that occur in Indonesia? Maybe.
Shall I maybe start off and then
right,
yeah. And of course, it depends on the pollutant in groundwater quality, etc. And I think the first rule is we should stop, of course, at the source, stop pollution. That's one. But of course, it happens, and then it really depends on what kind of pollution it is. Lots of my research is about heavy metals, which is quite a thing that can affect the quality of life of us, but also micropollutant as polyaromatic hydrocarbons. Not to get specific, but most of these are before they enter the ground are bound to sediment. So one of the most cost-effective solutions is to capture the sediment and isolate it, so there's no leaching to the groundwater. That's probably step one. And then there's some pollutants that are very mobile, and you cannot really stop by cost-effective measure. You need really high-tech removal efficiencies of these pollutants, and therefore it should be really source controlled. So I'm talking about pesticides, medicine. Those are on a global level very concerned on our groundwater, of course, that we use for drinking water. And then again, we cannot stop it. End of pipe is to upgrade our drinking water process, which is very costly. So again, I really hope we don't use any materials that leach, that we really use nature-based solutions on this. And if needed, and of course that's always the case, we can have cost-effective purification depending on what kind of pollutant we are talking about. So I can share one publications on that in the chat. Maybe that gives more information on specific processes. Yeah.
Great, Floris. Does Pak Leo or Reza want to add to that?
Yeah, Bu Sinar, maybe I would like to add a little bit different point of view, let's say, about this pollution. So I would like to raise an awareness about how important the role of the local government is to be able to control, because this is driven by human activities mostly, right? So it's very important for the local government to develop, let's say, wise policy or approach on how to tackle this, because this is very much in line with what the local government, the responsibility, I would say, of the local government, because it's driven by humans. Yeah, that's all for me.
Okay, yes, so local government has also to play a role in this. Thank you, Pak Leo. There is a question from Widianto Adiputra to Pak Leo about potensi air baku di Indonesia. Selain untuk menampung air di musim hujan, juga sebagai cadangan air baku untuk air bersih dan pertanian. Masalahnya adalah pengendapan yang sangat tinggi di waduk dan bendungan. Apakah ada metode tertentu untuk mengatasi hal ini, khususnya dari Ditjen SDA? Terima kasih.
Ya, terima kasih untuk pertanyaannya. Jadi masih menjadi masalah yang sangat serius memang terkait sedimentasi di reservoir, dan saya kira sampai sekarang belum ada obat yang paling ampuh kalau kita bicara engineering intervention, ya, atau rekayasa. Untuk itu kita lebih banyak ke prevention. Kita lebih banyak ke prevention, dan kita sudah belajar dari beberapa bendungan kita memang banyak masalah sedimentasi, dan yang paling sustainable adalah tentu saja untuk menjaga di sumbernya, di hulunya. Seperti yang tadi saya promosikan, bahwa ini harus ada inisiatif untuk highly selective permit, ya, untuk land use and water use, seperti itu. Jadi mungkin prevention lah, ya. Kalau saya bilang kita harus prevention. Jadi dari awal kita harus punya rencana atau plan di mana untuk hal-hal yang berbau prevention kita juga sudah masuk sangat detail seperti apa yang harus kita kerjakan, seperti itu mungkin. Ya, terima kasih.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So prevention is better than to when it's already happened.
Yes. And prevention is much more sustainable than engineering interventions. I'm an engineer, but I will not shy to say that.
Right. Thank you, Pak Leo.
Thank you.
There is a question from a student, Putu Amarta from ITB. So that's alma mater of Reza, civil engineer. From some seminars about WRM and flood, I noted that public participation in WRM and flood control is very important. Because of that, education or socialization for the people is truly necessary. What are the strategies of the government to encourage people to participate in WRM and flood control programs? Is there any program to develop flood plan map to educate people about the flood in their area? I am interested to participate in any efforts to educate people about WRM or flood control. How can I start to do it effectively? I think the Netherlands and Japan's successful WRM and flood control program are the products of public participation. When government, engineer, research experts, people work together. Thank you. Yeah, we got volunteer here. Please. Thank you for the question, Putu, and please, Pak Leo.
Yeah.
Can you give an answer to that?
Yeah. Thank you, Bu Sinan. Thank you for the question, Pak Putu. Yeah, that's exactly what I concluded in my presentation as well. That structural measures are very important, but far from sufficient. We need to develop partnerships. We need to develop integrated from so many sectors to work together. Yeah, like for example, I mentioned in my presentation also, we can include it in our curriculum for early education level in Indonesia about conserving rivers, for example. And in my opinion, that will be best with a method of field work rather than in class. Yeah. So don't give a theory in class for kids about conserving rivers. We are wasting our time. So bring them outside, show them how rivers can be, it supports our life. That's to put in simple words. Yeah. So we really need to conserve it. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, Pak Putu. Yeah, so that's basically what I would like to raise here with my presentation. I'm from the Ministry of PUPR. We are all mostly engineers, but once again, far from sufficient. And the key for that again is local government. It's very important the role of this local government to be able to coordinate that. Yeah, and then. Let's say central government and other parties can be supporting parties, but initiative should be will be much better from the local government. Thank you.
And I would also say, don't hold yourself back, right? If you are in your society, your small scale can do something.
Yes. Do something, Pak Putu. Do something. We will support you.
Yes, I like this. It's great. There's another question from Elfrianti Novita, and I would like to address it to Reza, because it's in eastern part of Indonesia, such as Papua and Papua Barat, there are many developments in the infrastructure, so this affects the continuity of the forestry. How do we tackle the problems rising from these developments to prevent the degradation of land and water?
Yeah, well, simple is actually the answer. Law enforcement. Again, it relates back to the presentation of Paleo, where he already mentioned that, and it's difficult right now. I mean, if there is no regulation or law enforcement on this land use change, and because you can give permits to people that might have, let's say, more budget, and then they can build also like for economic growth. So again, this trade-off economic and then versus the environment, that is what happening in the field. And again, we just need to make a more strict law and enforce it, because that is also happening in Brantas, because people are changing the land use, and then you will have at the end erosion, for example, and then it will degrade the water quality. So again, this cycle, again, practically it's not that easy.
Yeah, it is not that easy, and we really have to enforce the law. That's your statement, Reza. Yes, thank you. There is another question from Lisa Agustina for Mr. Leo. Is the building of future dams already considered to climate future or climate projection? Is it adaptive to climate change?
Yeah. Yes, of course. So for every dam that we are trying to build, there are many planning, engineering, of course, and then many other things. And it's been one of our, let's say, term of reference now that for every water infrastructure that we design, we have to take into account a few numbers of climate scenarios. So it's a must now that it has to be included in the engineering design. So if the question is it adaptive to climate change, then yes, we prepare for that. That's from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Leo. So question from Nabila to Floris. Floris, I'm interested in the part where you bring up nature-based solution, NBS. In your personal opinion, what kind of intervention that could be effectively applied in a highly dense urban scene such as Jakarta? Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. Yeah, I responded a bit in the chat already, but because nature-based solutions, you have large scale, then we talk about mangroves and everything, but the most challenging thing is in urban dense areas like Jakarta, or from the Dutch perspective, Amsterdam, which is a small village compared to Jakarta, of course. What could be in urban dense areas like, and I'm talking about spawn cities in China or in New Orleans or all over the world, mostly nature-based solutions. So basically it's greening cities and using nature-based solutions, so green, to actually tackle the three most challenging things in the world, and that's the floodings. That's also the drought relating to subsidence, as we talked before, especially in Java. That's really relevant, but also the high temperatures. Heat stress is a real problem in the world. If you in some countries still, if you have a heat wave, it has more casualties than Corona, for example. Just to put it in a bit in perspective. So heat stress, drought, and floodings can be solved by ensuring that every drop that falls would be as in the old days, being captured by green, by non-pavement. So most of the nature-based solutions that I like and see really going up the charts in the Netherlands are using any parks or green spaces that you have, make them bigger and ensure that the water can detain there and slowly go to the ground. So it's filtered. Relating to the question about groundwater pollution, also you higher groundwater tables again, which is a big problem in most of the mega cities, and also with green you mitigate high temperatures in the urban area, and of course when you keep the water where it falls, it will not go to lower places and cause floodings in the city. So basically we have to go back to the old days and make cities livable again with maybe small green implementations in the area. And if you ask me very specific, which is because there's a long list of rain gardens and swales and everything, I'm quite a big fan of lowering a bit the green spaces so water can detain there, not large things, because we have things in dengue as well. The water should be in the ground so mosquitoes cannot do it. And well, okay, that's very technical. But if you go to ClimateScan, for example, and the first one is bioswales, you will see 1,000 locations in the Netherlands where they are implemented in urban dense areas, even just using parks and transform them to nature-based solutions. And it's quite simple. It doesn't cost a lot of money. The infrastructure is there. You just have to ensure that the water actually infiltrates and that people know about it and understand why you're doing that. Yeah, maybe that's a short answer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And probably for extensive answers, it can be referred to the paper that you already put also in the chat.
Exactly, that's a very good comment, because in the paper we see what kind of what people like the most, and that's basically what we're talking here about as well, citizen science. So which kind of sites do they visit the most? That's actually bioswales, and in the paper we have a top 10 of most visited sites, and that's of course not a very scientific thing, but it means what people actually appreciate or relate to climate, and there are some great examples that you can implement in Jakarta, on a very detailed level. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll shut up. Yeah.
I want to say something, that we stop receiving the questions because we are on to the limit, and I will just read the remaining question up to now, and then we will close from there. So another question is from Leo, for Pak Leo, from Ani Priyanka. What are the measurements that are already taken from SDA PUPR for Jakarta flood now that NCICD was taken over by PUPR?
Yeah, shall I answer it now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, there are so many things going on now in terms of Jakarta flood control measures. Yeah, especially about the NCICD. This program has been in place for a couple of years. Then we have several plans now on it. The Dutch also involved, especially on preparing how do you call it again? A pre-feasibility study plan for so we have several stages. Yeah. So the first stage we call it emergency phase, or no regret measures, which means no matter what the future scenario is, we need to do this. So we have that plan, and then we have the next plan, stage B, if I'm not wrong, that's how we call it. And the stage B, assuming in case we cannot stop this land subsidence, then we might need to contain the Jakarta Bay with a dike. And experts from the Netherlands and Korea also, we work together very closely to develop this pre-feasibility study plan for this. And that's from the flood control point of view. And there is another big program also from a water supply angle. Yeah. So then there's a plan also to provide Jakarta with the sufficient water supply. Of course, the idea is to stop the groundwater extraction, so then we can fulfill the water supply from surface network. That's my question. Thank you. Oh, my answer. Thank you.
Your answer. Yes. Thank you, Paleo. Yes. We have another one. There is from Wahyudi. In our place, this area filled with water hyacinths, eceng gondok, and that it has been going on for a long time. Does it affect the quality of the water below it? Could you answer that, Reza, please?
Yeah, I guess it's related much to the nutrients that added up or accumulated in the water, and it could be. I mean, it could be from, let's say, from the domestic, because you increase actually phosphor and nitrate, which are nutrients, and that actually will exaggerate the development of this eceng gondok. And of course, it will affect it, which will decrease the water quality, because then you have lower oxygen level.
Okay, so should they get rid of the eceng gondok?
Yes, I mean, most of the time there is this cleaning program where they cut down all the eceng gondok and take up from the river. I think BBWS is also doing that, or PUPR in general. They have days where they clean up, or communities that clean up also those eceng gondok.
Yes, thank you, Reza. There is one more question, I think. This is from Endro P. Wahono to Flores. Hello, Floris. Thank you for the very interesting presentation, especially about improving the concern of all stakeholders in achieving the common goals. Please advise on problems that often occur in the sustainability of a project. Generally, after a project has been completed, it's very difficult to ensure that the sustainability of the project can be maintained. Dank u.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big concern in projects. Actually, it was the highlight of the paper about climate scan that we start up consortia, and then we have a 2-year period and budget, and then after it stops, we forget about it, or it seems that we lose interest or participation. So that's and there's a lot of science about that, how you will keep people interacted. And on a general note, because of course that might be related to a specific location or measure that you have, but it seems in the Netherlands we have programs that ensure that there's budget and also communication after the project is finished, and that's also about partnerships. We have water authorities that have that task, for example, and we have water authorities for 300 years or more even. So we have another, of course, situation that you might have in Indonesia, because you have to have people that are in charge of that and have the capacity and have the budget to ensure maintenance or interaction on sustainability on a longer part. But I hope, and that's something that the living labs that I showed in my thing, it depends on the region and how the people are interacting, but staying in communication after these projects and ensuring that you have a management plan, basically, that's how we cope in the Netherlands. And I'm not sure if that works for a specific project that you might have in mind, but that is really something that ensures a long-lasting sustainability. And maybe as an academic, most of the tools that we use, because that's something with tools as well, that stop after the project not being used, and it's a waste of money and a waste of information that you gather. One of the things that I work at the oldest applied university of the Netherlands. If you relate it to universities, maybe that might be a very good approach, because they will keep staying, and some of the projects and projects partners will leave after the budget is gone. So that might be something, and I hope a direction that we can work with, as mostly we are academics.
No, thank you, Floris.
Can I add something?
Yes, please, Reza.
I'm interested in this question as well, because we need to think also for the Brantas project. How can we actually make the project sustainable? Because after 2024, we don't know what is going to happen. But I know also that we always have the problem of limited budget, that the funding is gone and then you cannot do anything. So therefore, I mean, from nowadays, we are trying to be engaged again with, let's say, industry, and we want to make, like, say, a cooperation using their CSR. I mean, having also a forum where we can support programs that can improve the water. Of course, we need, first again to be engaged, explain the plan. But such forum, I mean, we should be more engaged, basically, with industry, with every stakeholders, to show that our program should be of priority, and then we should conduct that and then evaluate every time and show to the people that it's beneficial for all of us. So again, a forum, and then in contact with the industry, make a business model out of that, a small business model, and again, also disseminate the nice programs that we make. Thank you.
Thank you, Reza. So I got a lot of questions whether the material can be shared from the presenters. I would like to know if it's possible. Yes? Okay,
Absolutely.
so then
Yes, it's
Yes.
possible.
so then for this, then Dito from Nufik will share it. So if anyone interested in the presentation can contact Dito with this email address, which is in the chat, and the material will be presented to you. Okay, with this, actually, we are very happy to have the talk of today. I would like to thank you, Pak Leo Eliasta, Pak Floris Bogart, and Pak Reza Pramana, and of course, Pak Peter Van Taal for all the contributions. And thank you for all the participants, which is have been very active today. And I hope that everything that we talk about today can be fruitful, and you can have your takeaway home and do something about that. And with that, we would like to announce the upcoming event for the Climate Adaptation Challenge for Indonesian alumni. So the Climate Adaptation Challenge is to be the change in our journey to climate resilient future. And for this challenge, you have to think about the following questions. First of all, you want to reach out as many as possible people to do the climate adaptation. So you are an Indonesian NL alumni, and you are if you are not, then you have to register to the NL Alumni Network, and it is there in the link. Any topic to relate to climate adaptation can be submitted. And you have to make a campaign to highlight the cooperation between Indonesia and the Netherlands and has social media potential. So you have to be creative, think of fresh and innovative way to change in the north. You have to send your proposal in individual groups and businesses, and you submit your application in English. So how to reach out as many people as possible on the necessity of climate adaptation, which forms cooperation can be highlighted, and how can you mobilize local communities to work on this? So not only alumni of the Netherlands can apply, but you can also cooperate with all people in Indonesia as well. So so you have to submit it before the April 10th. And the best ideas, the two best ideas, have an award. It is €5,000 each, and this can be used to roll the campaigns over the summer. Please join now. And with this, I would like to close the Orange Talk today. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a wonderful evening and a wonderful day. Bye. See you next time.